once again to discuss things.
Trick or treat, give me something good to eat. I was really impressed by that.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. I love that movie.
Okay. Well, anyway, you want to go ahead and get started, sir?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Geeky Gentlemen History Month, the month in which we discuss the contributions that geeky gentlemen have made to history, but that have been ignored by biased educational system, except not at all. I am Sid Part 2. Joining me today is the one and only, the real Manos.
Hello. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm sure they're doing well. It's History Month. Everyone's doing well. Everything's candy and sunshine and rainbows in History Month, and we don't talk about anything sad or depressing. But we're doing, for the first time this month, or this year for History Month, we are doing fan film reviews. And today we picked I picked a fan film that we're reviewing, and that fan film is what?
It's Zorro Begins!
Also titled The Tears of Don Diego. So yeah, I'm a pretty big Zorro fan. There's this, and then there's one other Zorro fan film. That's it.
Yeah, there ain't much.
Yeah.
You'd think there'd be more.
You'd think so. The character's been around for 99 years. You would think there'd be more Zorro fan films. Technically, it's getting to the point where if you make something Zorro, it doesn't even have to qualify as a fan film, because he's like inches away from public domain.
I was going to ask you that. Is he in the public domain or not?
Technically, by every legal definition, he should be, but the company that owns the rights to him is fighting tooth and nail to not let that happen.
Yeah, I blame Disney for this.
I would too, but the Guy Williams show is just so good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, Zorro is a really interesting character. He's like kind of, in a lot of ways, the proto superhero.
Oh yeah.
To a lot of the tropes of superhero-dom. I made the joke years ago that Zorro's just Mexican Batman, when really, in fact, Batman is more white Zorro.
I should say that more often.
It's more true than you'd think. With like Don Diego, rich guy, no one would ever believe he's Zorro. It's so like he's got a cave. It's all there.
Yeah. And shit, like the whole thing that's become really part of Batman lore is the fact that his parents took him to see a Zorro movie.
Yep. So there's a lot there about Zorro that's really cool to look at, his impact on the superhero genre and like how it's changed him in retrospect and stuff like that. But tonight we're here to talk about the only Zorro fan film that's really actually a Zorro fan film, because the other one's like it's in modern day and it's like the whole like it's 2 minutes. It's not even fair to talk about, but it's whatever. I don't even count it. So this Zorro, I actually take it back. There are 3 Zorro fan films. One of them's a crossover with Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's also really bad. That I am aware of. But anyway, so this one is really interesting. I've never watched it in full. I've seen it floating around. Anytime I'm trying to think of fan films to talk about, I'll just randomly start searching characters that I like, and I've seen this around, but I've never watched it. So this was my first watch as well. Why don't we start with you though, Manos? What did you think of this?
Yeah, I found this really interesting, and you're right. I mean, he is kind of close to the point of being a public domain character, so you could call this a legit take on Zorro. I really was captivated a lot by the look of this film. Mm-hmm. Because it's mostly, it's black and white with maybe some flashes of color.
Yeah, it's very sepia.
Yeah, very sepia tone. There's like a haze to it in some places. There is like CGI background and sets. Mm-hmm. So it gives it this weird kind of dreamlike quality. Throughout the whole film, I think, with some minor exceptions here and there. I thought it was interesting. I was surprised by some of the like superpowered beings that pop up in this movie. That was really a left turn. I told Lindsay about that earlier today, and her reaction was, "Are there superheroes and are there supervillains and Zorro?" It's like, I don't know. I don't think so.
There's really not.
I don't think that's a thing. Yeah.
That was definitely the thing that got me the most. Like, oh, why? Like,
yeah, it suddenly took a weird Power Rangers turn.
Yeah, it's hard. This is almost an unfair comparison, but I don't care. I'm gonna do it. If you did that shit with Batman, people would be pissed, and rightly so, right? Like, yeah, Batman's had his whole training around the world thing, and definitely has had, like, interactions with the supernatural and gods and all that stuff, even before he's officially Batman. But something about doing that, about giving, like, a Batman-like character that kind of mystical background, it just feels like it undermines the point to a certain regard. At least to me. It feels just like it doesn't fit the character.
Yeah, that would be my only... It really was like... I remember stopping the video and going, wait, did I backed up and watched, like, the parts leading up to it again. Like, this actually is happening. It really is. I don't know if that is a portrayal of the character or just a take, because we have seen reimagines in Elseworlds of Batman that have used a supernatural twist. So I guess it is fair to use this. It's just so strange. I've never seen like this kind of setting, these kind of characters. And this kind of background for Zorro. I mean, it's literally like having the Lone Ranger fight robots.
Yeah, and like, see, that's the thing for me. I don't have a problem with Zorro going up against the supernatural in the same way I don't have a problem with Batman doing it. Right now, there's a...
well, I mean, that always happens.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. There's a comic being published right now by All American Comics that it's just that. It's Zorro dealing with like a invasion from hell. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that's fine. You don't see that kind of stuff often with Zorro, but I have no problem with them doing that. It's just when you tie it into the origin, it changes something on a level that I just don't like. But here's the other part that makes it even more awkward, Manos. It has no bearing on the story. You can cut that shit out and it works just fine. That's what makes it just that's what also makes it feel really weird. Like, if you were to give him the like sort of mythologically magical origin, okay, fine, if you're gonna go somewhere with it in the story, but the fact that it's just there and doesn't really add anything makes it feel just extra awkward.
Yes.
And so it's just a distraction from the piece, I feel, and that's really unfortunate because otherwise, you know, the CG is certainly obvious that it's CG. It's not really convincing on any level, but because of the kind of film style they use, it works and it sells, you know, historical era buildings reasonable as well as it needs to. They do a pretty good job shooting it in, you know, really it's definitely undeniably a simplistic way. It's a lot of white blank walls with some kind of antique set decoration. Yeah. But it's effective, right?
Yeah, it works. You know what it reminded me of is like some mid-2000s films. Like it almost looks like Rodriguez Frank Miller work. Like, is this like the sequel to The Spirit?
Exactly. It really does feel like that kind of Sin City-ish tone where it's super stylized, and that really helps sell these very minimalist, quote unquote, historical location sets. And the other thing about it is a lot of it just feels very Zorro. You know, Don Diego rubbing shoulders with the political elite that he's trying to take down as Zorro is a big trope that we do with Zorro all the time, and it really works. I like the way of tying it all into the chess game too. I thought that was, you know, it's tired and cliche as fuck, but fuck it, I like it. That
works. We see that all the time because it works. And it still works, by the way. I am, if I don't mean to interrupt, that also kind of suckers me in. That kind of thing. Whoa.
Yeah. Same. And then the other, like, it's a huge trope of Zorro that kind of, it's been around forever, but it was used most heavily in the Disney show with Guy Williams, where he'd sit there and fucking drink with Sergeant Garcia to get all the information he needs. Sergeant Garcia is the incompetent Commissioner Gordon to Zorro's Batman, and it's absolutely hilarious. And I love that shit. It's so effective where Garcia's like pouring his soul out because he's got a guilty conscience and also because he's being given a lot of wine. So this really does work on a lot of levels to just tick all these boxes that we're so used to seeing for Zorro, and I really appreciate it for those things. But I am so undeniably distracted by the fucking battle in the goddamn Pantheon.
Yeah. It really is. I don't know, it's so strange. It's like... it is literally like cutting like clips of Power Rangers in Batman Begins. And it's such a distracting, weird artistic choice.
Yeah. And it's so strange to talk about that kind of stuff because like there's nothing that's technically wrong with it. There's no reason you can't do that, and there's no reason you can't sell it. It's just, it feels so out of place that it kind of takes down the rest of it. Because my thing for me is, I do like a lot of this. As a Zorro fan, I like a lot of this. But as a Zorro fan, I've seen literally all of this. Fight on the train, straight, like, it's done well here, but it's, as bad a movie as it is, it's done better in Legend of Zorro. You know, the saving the damsel in distress from the evil commandante or alcalde or general or whatever the fuck it is this week. It's done in every Zorro thing, and it's not done exceptionally well here. Like, it's ticking a lot of the boxes of Zorro, but it's just doing a really basic job of, like, it definitely knows Zorro material. It definitely knows how to tell, like, the kinds of stories that get told with Zorro. And it's doing a good job of just kind of checking all these boxes. So if it were just that stuff, I'd be talking about, like, yeah, this is really fun. This is really in the spirit of Zorro. But it's like the one thing that it's trying to add just feels super off. And so it's hard not to just zero in on this thing that is the exception. And that is just... I can't not call it the worst part about the film.
Yeah,
it's not just that it's weird. It's not just that it's not been done with Zorro. It's, like, poorly integrated into the plot, too. There's just a lot about it that makes it feel really, really awkward.
Now, when he gets his magical armor, am I high, or is he getting, like, a helmet with bat ears on it?
Yeah.
And there's that joke like, this isn't really that Spanish. I'm going to take it off. And he comes up with the mask and hat himself, which I thought was kind of funny.
It is. It's kind of funny, but it's kind of random and weird. Right?
I mean, they should have gone all the way and done like a Sailor Moon kind of like a transformation with him like dancing and pirouetting.
I mean, I'm down.
Yeah, I mean, fuck, we've already done, like, the, like, gods of... Justice, or whatever their names were. Like, why not throw that in? Like, you know, at that point, like, what's inappropriate?
Yeah, so it's a really, really weird fit. And, part of the reason that I hadn't talked about this yet on the show was just because it was in Spanish, but with the further restrictions of fan film reviews and History Month, you kind of, like, tie your hands and you have to talk about this. And it's one of those things from, like, it's just a weird one to talk about, because if I'd watched this beforehand, I don't know if I would have picked it, because I kind of feel bad for harping on the mythological element to it so much, because at the end of the day, it feels like it's ultimately just trying to be something unique for the sake of being unique, but I'm finding it really distracting and really hard to talk about literally anything else. And it is just really, really weird for me. On not just as a Zorro fan level, but on multiple levels, I just find it really odd. And it's not like that, like, spiritualist stuff has been done with Zorro. Ever since the 2005 Isabel Allende novel, they've done more with tying Zorro to the Native American culture. They made him half Native American on his mother's side, which I thought was a pretty good choice. They've been doing a lot here and there with that stuff, but and I've seen things like tying Zorro to kind of like the fox spirit and stuff, kind of quasi Native American culture, and I'm somehow still more okay with that than I am with this stuff, and I don't have much of an explanation as to why. And so I feel bad. So let's force ourselves to talk about other stuff in it. How did you feel about the performances?
I thought they were quite good. Like, I didn't really see a bad performance out of any of the leads. I like Don Diego a lot. I like Garcia a lot. Maybe his little sidekick guy who
Bernardo?
really can speak. Bernardo.
Bernardo is, in fact, mute.
Yes.
Interesting little factoid I like to bring up when talking about Zorro is from the very beginning of like the superhero kind of tropes that we started, we had an Alfred character and we had a character who had a literal disability, and is somehow and uses that to be more aware and kind of uses people's biases against them. So I love that Zorro's kind of woke as fuck from the very beginning.
That's always been a thing about, like, Zorro is, like, he always is kind of like fighting
Zorro's
the establishment.
The original social justice warrior, man.
He is, yeah. I mean, I don't understand how people, like, can't not see this kind of stuff. I mean, he is fighting the establishment within the establishment.
But anyway, yeah, Bernardo in this, I thought he was fine. Like, you do kind of, when you're as an actor, you can't vocalize in a performance. You do kind of have to overact sometimes to really sell it. I get where that comes from. He's not on screen enough for me to have much of an opinion beyond that he is overacting, and I don't know if that's a huge problem or not.
What, Bernardo was overacting?
Yeah.
Oh, I actually thought he was underacting.
Oh, okay.
That was actually my problem with him. It's like he's just kind of standing there.
Oh, okay.
In a lot of scenes, like, I don't know. Because I've seen lots of people play mutes, and you have to do a lot of acting with the eyes, in facial expressions, obviously, but a lot in the eyes. And he's just kind of, I don't know, staring over there and staring over there. And I don't know. It just never really struck me. Okay. Outside of Diego, I really like Garcia a lot.
Yeah, Garcia, like, he's only in one scene, but damn, does he sell that.
It's actually my favorite scene in the film.
I mean, that is the scene that feels the most like just out of any kind of Zorro movie to me. Yeah, that was a big reason. And I kind of always like that kind of like spying political shit aspect to some superheroes and some action characters. I like characters
that, play their cards close to their chest, and they take a lot of risks, like when they do, like interacting with other characters and some of the villains. And you keep your friends close, you keep your enemies closer. And I've always dug that part about Zorro, and this scene is about that. And the other scene too with I can't remember his name, the governor.
I think they just call him the governor.
Yeah, the governor. I like that scene too.
That's cool.
But yeah, particularly with Garcia. I don't know. Garcia is just really interesting. I really like what you already mentioned, where he's talking about he has some real like bad feelings about what this plan is, and he needs to tell somebody about it. Like this is not cool with him, but he doesn't know really what to do about it, and he is kind of unknowingly doing something about it by telling Zorro about it.
Yeah, I do love that about it. That's the thing that's always so good about Garcia in just about anything. Even when he's not Garcia, he's Garcia in everything but name in a lot of properties. But like the '90s show, I think his name was Mendoza, and is literally the same character. But
almost feels why they bother even changing the name. If
I literally think the '90s show did that with Garcia and Bernardo. They made him a kid and they called him Felipe, but he was still mute. I think they were just trying not to be Guy Williams really hard.
I guess so.
but anyway, like a lot of things will do that with Garcia, and I like the notion that Zorro kind of keeps him around because he knows that he's actually a good person at heart. He's just in a shitty situation, and he knows that he can use him to actually improve the situations that he's in. I really, really like that stuff. It's weird when you don't have the Garcia character, because like I really, really like Matt Wagner's Zorro run on the comics. He doesn't have Garcia. He has Sergeant Gonzalez, who is like from the original Johnston McCauley stuff. Sergeant Gonzalez opens the original Zorro novel talking about like how he beats the shit out of natives and priests, and then Zorro walks in the bar basically. And so Wagner's run doesn't have that. He has Gonzalez and goes places with that. But it's not the same when you don't have like the good-hearted person who's working for the evil government kind of thing. And like something about that dynamic just really, really works. So, okay, what else with this one can we talk about? So the CG integration, I mentioned a little bit that it's not like convincing, but it is effective at communicating what they want it to. Did you think there were any shots that like did work really well, or did you think on the opposite side there were some that like, okay, you're pushing the CG too hard there?
Well, I think they wisely played with the CGA limits that they had, because there's the shots of them entering like a house and the fortune teller's place. It does seem like they're aware of their budgetary limits, so it does kind of, the way it's shot and the way it's integrated in the film it really does feel like pretty close to an artistic choice, where it does kind of blend in with a lot of like the kind of the hyper style that they're using. So I don't know. I'm good with it. I didn't have any major complaints on the CG in this.
For me, for the most part, no, neither did I. I liked quite a bit of what they were doing. Nice distant shots, landscapes, and stuff like that. I thought it was very effective. I will say, I think one shot is bad not because the CG isn't good, but because they linger on it too long. And that's the shot of the cannons flying across the canyon to blow up the thing, the cannonballs.
Yep.
They're just like... There's a lot of things that are like that I'm gonna notice that other people won't, but like that shot could work if they just tried to do some more subtle things to make it work. So, like, the cannonballs are flying across the canyon, but, like, they're static. They're not rotating.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it just makes it feel a little awkward, unfortunately.
Because it was definitely, it definitely looks like they were making the attempt of doing kind of a Zack Snyder type of shot.
Yeah, I could definitely see that too. So, I don't know. It's an adjusting thing. I kind of go back and forth on it. I'm like, I can see what you were going for, and that could have been cool, and it could have been. It's definitely not going to be convincing. I'm definitely not going to look at it and go, okay, man, they actually put a camera behind cannonballs. That's so cool. But at the same time, it's losing some of the immersion level when you don't have some of the subtleties fixed up on that. And it's like, I noticed that with another shot earlier in the thing, but it's not as big of a problem because it's not on screen as long. There's a shot where the camera's like kind of panning through the California desert at night, and an eagle kind of swoops right by the camera, and you like hear the caw kind of thing, right? And that's a good shot, and they use the eagle quite effectively. But like, the eagle doesn't flap its wings; it just kind of shoots by the camera, and it's clearly they just took a static model of an eagle with its wings out and didn't animate any kind of wing movement for it at all. Which is, you know, and that's, I noticed that because I do 3D animation and stuff, but I don't think other people notice that as much because it doesn't linger on it. It just kind of shoots past the camera in like 3 seconds.
I guess it did. Yeah, I guess it is kind of a birdemic kind of shot.
Yeah, a little bit. So something like that, like, it's just, that one I'm fine with because it's quick and it's not like lingering, but the cannonball's not rotating. You know, some might feel like that's kind of a nitpick. I feel like it'd be a nitpick if it weren't on screen for a good 10 to 15 seconds. You know, it's on screen long enough that you start to notice it, and you start to notice that, like, it's wrong.
Yeah.
And so that kind of stuff comes to mind for me. What do you think of the costume design for Zorro here?
I liked it. I'm a little off on the armor stuff, although the armor does make sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's the thing. That is the costume, right? Like, Zorro's a character who's been around almost 100 years, and he has never changed his costume in a significant manner. It's always that.
Well, if he was a Marvel DC character, the costume would be changing like every 6 months.
You're not wrong. So I don't know. It was interesting to see the addition of like the armor plating and stuff, and I'm like, you know, I can see it. It kind of works. He's got kind of like the something about the gauntlets with all the little like silver beads on them or medallions or wherever they are. It doesn't really make much sense, but it does look very Spanish, so I kind of like it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's cool. I will say it's not something I like, but it's not something I would have in like my ultimate Zorro costume. But I do like the change up. For me, Matt Wagner kind of made the best argument for Zorro's costume being super basic, in that he intentionally did that so that Zorro could be anyone, peasant or Don. And I really like that idea. So I don't typically like a lot of flair in my Zorro costumes beyond just, you know, a cape.
Yeah. That actually makes a lot of sense. Because the more armor, the more elaborate the costume, the more likely the authorities might look to more richer guys instead of just peasants.
Yeah, and that's the thing I really like about Zorro, is just Zorro's one of the most political superheroes ever, and I really appreciate the thought that gets put into his costume in that regard. And
also, that does make sense too, as kind of a man of the people kind of hero.
Yeah, so stuff like that I tend to think about, but here, I don't know, it's kind of cool to see. I don't mind seeing someone experiment with stuff like that here.
Yeah.
All right, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about with this one? I just wanted to say real quick, I thought it was cool they actually managed to get a sword fight on a train. That could not have been easy to manage. I don't know. I don't know how expensive train tickets are these days. Maybe that was like incredibly easy to manage.
Mm-hmm.
But it was cool. I was not expecting that in this Zorro fan film. I was not expecting a fight on board a train, and if it's not actually a train, it's a really good set.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
I'm always impressed with things you don't think too much about when you see like a professional studio film or even an independent film. When you come across a fan film which you know couldn't have had that much money, and you see things like trains, or you see a guy and a horse. Because we were talking about the trouble we were having like finding historical fan fiction films. Well, I mean, you know, period pieces are a little bit harder to make. You need a little more bread to put those things together, because you know, like if you're doing a western, you need like horses and landscapes. You're doing a 30s film, well, you need tons of old cars and a street to shoot that looks kind of old, and make sure you can get everyone out of the fucking way when you.
Yeah, you don't want your guy walking through on a cell phone in his Levi's, right?
That's right.
So
I'm impressed by stuff like that. Yes. So yeah, I'm always impressed by that. So yeah, not bad.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and go on to ratings then. This is gonna sound really low, but it's literally at the halfway point, and I think it's does enough good that it definitely deserves to get there. But that one element just is such a major distraction that it takes a lot away from this. Mm-hmm. So I'm giving this exactly 2.5 out of 5 Z's.
Let's see. That is actually the same rating I was planning on giving. A 3.5 lightning bolts. From the god of Leonidas, or whoever the fuck he was.
Mm-hmm. So you said 3.5 because I said 2.5. I just want to make sure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 3.5.
You're sticking with 3.5. Okay. Yeah,
I'm gonna stick to that.
That's cool. For me, like, as much as I like a lot of the good, the bad is very distracting to the piece on the whole, and I can't get over that.
If you would remove that element for the film, I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5.
I'd actually probably be there too. That's how much of a distraction it is to me.
Yeah.
All right. So, Manos, what are we talking about next time?
Well, there's this film I did out of pure research for the last couple days of a Pirates of the Caribbean film, The Sword of Jack Sparrow.
All righty then. That sounds like a good time. Everyone, hope to see you there. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
And I'm the Realist.
And we are your Geeky Gentlemen. And we will be discussing things historical.